What could be nicer than flying outside the body in complete freedom? Few things, actually. However, it's not always necessarily immediate or easy to fly outside the body because there are a number of conditions that make sense in that moment. Sometimes depending on our lucidity, our psychological condition, on the gravitational field of the environment and different situations, we may experience non-physical flight or astral flight in different ways. So today we are going to examine that in details. Hi, thank you for being with us in this video. I am Nanci Trivellato. I am one of the researchers and instructors of the IAC, International Academy of Consciousness, and it's such a pleasure to be here to discuss one of the aspects of the out-of-body experience, astral projection, and particularly an aspect that I like very much to discuss about for many different reasons, because sometimes people think it's simple and always happens in the same way and not necessarily, but also because once we master this astral flight, non-physical flight, we can have experiences that may be very impactful in a positive sense and help us come back to the body with an extra charge of energy, with extra vitality and motivation for our everyday life. So let's go into it in details, step by step, so that we can cover properly each of the phases and conditions. I would like to start by calling your attention that the sensation that sometimes we have of being very heavy, like in slow motion, sometimes we feel like we are close to our bodies and we want to move and we cannot. And it's such a huge effort. Sometimes we want to talk, we cannot, but usually it's moving that it's very hard. This is related with the process of flying outside the body, because this is related with how much of energies of the energetic interface, in other words, the energy layer that connects our physical body to our non-physical astral body. So how much of these energies that are just connecting energies we still carry with us when we are projected in our astral body, non-physical body. If it is an excess of these energies, one may think, oh, it's great because I am full of energy. But it's not, because we are full of an energy that attaches us to the physical body. Therefore, that energy is denser than the subtle energies of our astral body. And it makes us heavy. It affects in many different ways our experience. We are not here to discuss how it affects and how it works. We are here to discuss about flying outside the body, but I bring this so that we understand that it's the same context and there is a lot for us to examine in this aspect, because we need to control this balance of energy that we carry with us when we go outside the body, so that we have higher chances of being conscious, lucid, and in control outside the body. Of course, spontaneously, there are many cases that the experience just happens. I mean, the out-of-body experience. And then we are out there enjoying, and so many nice things happen. But what if you want to produce it at will? Well, then we may need to know some of these details just to be able to use them in the moments that we might come to need them. When it comes to flying outside of the body, one of the aspects that not always is easy for the projector to understand and master is when the difficulty, the impediment, or what is making it hard to fly with control is actually an external variable, an external element. In this case, I'm referring to the energy field of the non-physical community, of that astral place the person is in. So let me give you a few explanations about what is this and how it works, so that we can then bring this to the context of flying outside the body. One of the interesting facts that we see when we are projected, but not only. We see also here in this life, we feel, we know by many different experiments, but we can see when we are outside of the body, looking at the physical environment. That's for another discussion that we can have if you want. Just leave us a comment down below and we will go to it. But in the same way that we know energy is everywhere in every place, they are also outside the body and they are also in specific community. The different types of energy that we can see and sense when we are especially projected outside the body. Now, there are some of these astral communities or astral dimensions that we can go. And as you might know, there are many different dimensions, many different types of communities, many different places we can go outside the body. And sometimes they can be denser just in a sense of being closer to the physical reality. Sometimes they are much subtler. But what we need to understand here is all of those energies that are in each place, they create a certain sort of, I'm going to call gravitational field. It's not gravity, but just to make an analogy with what we can understand. So there is some sort of gravitational field. And in some of these places, the energy can be so dense that our own non-physical body, astral body, would be lighter than that dimension. So you are there and you feel you want to fly or you want to move quick from one spot to another, as we normally do in every projection. But the air, the atmosphere, which is what I'm calling the gravitational field, but it's not air, it's not atmosphere, it's not gravitational field, is the energy that occupies that space there. That energy may be heavy, dense, to a point that it causes pressure on us, in the same way that gravity works here. So you may want to go higher, or you may want to fly and find it very difficult. So if it is something that is depending on the environment, and you want to get out of there, or you want to fly, or you want to do different experiments, for whatever reason, you want to just get to higher levels and be able to move faster, what you can resort to in that moment is the velo technique, which is a technique for us to make our energies more balanced and increase the vibration. We do this technique inside the body. We can also do this technique when we are outside of the body, and especially outside of the body, it works in very interesting ways. I'll be very glad to share with you some of my experiences using this technique outside the body. But the point here is, if you want to fly and you feel you cannot because the environment is stopping you from flying because of the heaviness of the energies, and I don't say heavy in a sense of being negative, but usually it's not the most comfortable place because the energies are not as light as we are used to outside the body. But the heaviness causes this pressure and stops us from easily flying. Having said that, let me bring a completely different situation that may cause difficulty for us to fly when we are outside the body. This is very much related with the component that we have mentioned before and in other videos. That is what causes us to be in slow motion. But usually the slow motion is slightly different because that happens when we are close to the body. But sometimes when we are in a normal, natural astral projection, and we are there acting, we are conscious, we may want, in some cases, try to fly and find it difficult, not because the environment has heavyish energy or denser that causes it harder for us to fly, but because our astral body, our non-physical body is heavy at that moment. But how can it be heavy? Because there's no weight specifically there. It is heavy because it may be with an excess of energy, but it's not of any type of energy. It's energy that is related with the connection that we have with our physical body. Please allow me a parenthesis here. This energy that connects the physical and the non-physical astral body, they have a hybrid density because they have to be heavy enough or dense enough, putting the correct word, to be adhering with the physical particles, with the physical cells. But they also have to be subtle enough to adhere to the non-physical body. So there may be cases in which we are out there in the astral dimension, projected in an environment or layer of the non-physical dimension that is relatively subtle, so further from the physical dense level of existence that we have here. However, we may be carrying with us there some aspects or some qualities, different types of energy of the energetic interface, of the energy links that bond the physical and the non-physical body, that causes denser energy than necessary to be there attached to the non-physical astral body. Therefore, what is going to happen is that we will feel heavier than usually we would. Not necessarily like in the slow motion that we cannot move. It's not that. It's just that we keep stumbling on things. We keep not controlling fully our extra-physical flight or non-physical flight. And therefore, you may feel that you start flying and then you slow down, you go lower and then you go higher. And then sometimes you cannot completely control your flight. It's a funny experience, actually, but one that we would like to change if that happens to us, because we want to really fly with total control. That is what's most pleasant, and that's what we want. So I'm giving you this tip because in a moment as this, what you would like to do is to make your energy, the energy that is there, connecting you to the physical body, but you are far from the physical body. But those energies that are there, or those energetic connections, better saying, you want to keep only the subtler part of those energies, because the denser part can be throughout your silver cord, can be connecting you there to your physical body. So no problem. So what can you do? Number one, you can emit energy aiming at making yourself lighter. So just emit energy to all directions. It's very important that you do it in a lucid way, in a controlled way. So you need to learn a little about how to do emission of energy outside the body. Because their emission is simple, it's just put energy out, but there may be some details on how it operates that can make it work superbly or can just connect you to other situations that are around. So you can do the emission, but you can also do the velo technique that I have already mentioned before in other videos and in other moments. Velo stands for Voluntary Energetic Longitudinal Oscillation. We have a book about this. It's a technical book for those who want to study and understand about energy, their energy body, but it helps tremendously because it's a huge control of energy that we gain. We also have loads of trainings. The Consciousness Development Program teaches this deeply for you to be able to control your astral projections, knowing what's going on, knowing what to do with energy. But why am I saying this? Because when you use velo outside the body, you have many benefits. But you have to know that you are far enough from the body and that you are focusing only on your energy out there. Otherwise, if you are too close to the body, you may end up returning, but only if you are too close and not completely in control. So there are certain ways for doing it. But if you are in this projection that I am giving here an example, you are already out there, you're already not being able to control your flight, you sense your energies are denser and you want to go to a subtler environment, subtler dimension, and have your energies with higher level of frequency, just to put in very simple terms, have your energies in a way that you have only the subtler part of this energetic interface or energetic connection there with you, then it's worth applying value there. It's worth learning how to do it out there. Actually, let me say that doing value outside the body, it's much easier than doing value here inside the body. So try it, but you have to practice inside the body first, right? So that when you are out there, you know how to do it. Finally, the other aspect that is important to be able to control fully our flight is how we can focus our mind, our will, and how we develop our ability to fly. Because we learn to fly. Of course, we have done this in many other experiences, perhaps in many other lives, astral projections you have had in other lives. But right now, when you are conscious outside the body, and you know you are, you need to be able to connect with this ability, the skill you have already developed to be able to control your astral, non-physical flight. So there are a few things that normally create problems to people. Number one, anxiety, being in a hurry. So they think, okay, I'm going to fly, go. And then there is a certain mental push that creates anticipation, but in a negative way, that makes the person think, okay, now I go. Am I going? Yes, I said I will go. Now I want to go. This cannot happen. If you have this type of thinking or doubt, you will prevent yourself from controlling your flight outside the body. So, as in all out-of-body experience, you want to be cool and calm. We have to always remember of this. You want to fly? It's a decision, but it's a decision in which you have to focus on what you are doing, what your action will be. Because sometimes there are some projectors that they are not so experienced, and they may be in a situation in which they are seeing something new, or they are surprised with something, or they are finding something very beautiful, or they are finding something strange and they want to get out of a place, and at the same time they want to fly, and then they are in a hurry to fly. This doesn't work. You can have all of these elements, but you have to keep a certain balance. So you are going to focus now flying. You are lucid of everything else, but your will, your intention is on flying. That is critical. Other people, they do something like Superman, because we see so many of these hero movies, right? And with their hands like this, nothing wrong. But normally when we fly, at least that's how it is for me, I feel more like a wish, an enjoyment, or a joy of flying outside the body, that I pose my whole body in a position as if we would have here. So it's more like impulsing than turf. Nonetheless, having said that, some people, when they are trying to learn to control their non-physical flight in their out-of-body experiences, what they do is that they jump. So like a big jump, but it's a jump that it's like a leap, and they go up there, and then another jump. Reminds me of the movie John Carter. I do not know if you have seen it, but something like that, as if you are jumping in a place with no gravity. So each jump can go higher and higher, but you are still jumping, you are not flying. In other cases, especially when it is because of some excess of energy in the non-physical body, what can happen is that the person tries to push, but then push with whatever means. So some people try to swim on the air. Oh, I did that so many times. So many times I lost count. Especially when I was young, maybe around 15, 20s. So I would remember so many times that I was projected and I wanted to move faster. And I could recognize the place where I was, but still there I was swimming. I used to swim a lot, so maybe that was why I would think of me swimming. But after doing a lot of research, and I have been doing a lot of research on this and knowing how people used to have their experience, especially at their teens or during their childhood, non-physical astral projection. So then when I asked them, many people, they would also swim. Was it your case? Have you ever had one of these nice flight outside the body? Those that you could very easily float, or maybe those that you had to control a little, maybe like a superhero learning to control your flight. Yeah, okay, we learn with everything, but we need to understand the components, the processes, the mechanisms that are involved in flying, because it's very natural as walking here. But we have to explain to someone that if they are walking, for example, in a dune with very thin sand, it's going to feel different than if they are walking on cement or on the grass. And if they are walking maybe on the sea, where they have the water maybe by their thighs, so it's going to feel different, and not necessarily we can do all the same movements with all the same dexterity that we would if we were just walking maybe with our tennis shoes in a regular street. So we need to understand why. We need to understand how our non-physical astral body works for us to be able to have good control of our out-of-body experiences, but especially for us to enjoy and, most importantly, to learn. There are so many lessons that we bring, and it's not only lessons about what is out there. It's lessons about life. It's lessons about what we are doing here. It's lessons to understand our body, the context of our life, our situation, the situations we experience. It's interesting how seeing life from that higher perspective out of our physical brain can give us so many insights about life here. This is very important, and that's why we want to master and control all of these aspects of the out-of-body experience. If for you it is particularly hard to fly outside the body because you cannot be fully conscious, or because you get anxious about doing it, not anxious because you are afraid, but anxious because you want so much and you do not know necessarily how, or because you never remember of flying when you are projected outside of your body. There are cases like this. People keep walking, and it's not so much walking, it's like sliding, because we aim at walking, but we keep sliding, like in a vertical position as if we were here in the physical world, which is unnecessary, but is what happens most of the case. So if for you want to overcome this conditioning, and you want to increase your chances of remembering of flying and reaching control of it, you can try little things that may seem a little bit stupid when we think of them, but those are simple techniques that work. This is a technique that I have used for a period of time, because for me, sometimes this would happen. I would be outside the body, conscious, but I would not even think of flying, because depending on the level of lucidity we are, and especially depending on the type of out-of-body experience, depending on the type of the environment, it just doesn't occur to us. So what I did is that sometimes before going to bed, I would just stop for a moment and think about flying, and I would, still standing, just do like little pulses up, not jumping, but really thinking of going high, feeling as if I would wish and focus and intend and push myself out. I would try to bring that as a sort of a mental saturation, a preparation, so that I would remember of that when I was or I would be projected, because conditioning of everyday life stops us from doing many of the good, important, and nice things we could do outside the body. You can also try and thinking of this while you are already lying down. That is okay. But that is more mental than the action, right? So in my case, I wanted to think, will, but have the opportunity to impulse a little bit my body, slightly, but feeling I wasn't that way. Usually when we fly or when we start flying, we are like in an upright position or not necessarily completely horizontal. Only if we are flying for a long time, very high, we will be fully horizontal, which happens, of course. But at the beginning, you are normally starting from a upright standing position when you are outside of your body. So these are little things that may seem silly, but they make difference to make us more comfortable, to make us more ready, perhaps, to take the action to fly outside the body. Another technique that I want to mention to you that works very well, but I would say you should do it if you are experienced in a way with the out-of-body experience and distinguishing dream from a lucid dream from an out-of-body experience. These are three different things and they have very different characteristics. People usually mix them, but they are different. But I would say it's nice if you have experience because this technique would be based on planning and producing a lucid dream. It's a dream. It's not an out-of-body experience, but it's a lucid dream in which you choose what you are going to dream of and you choose how you are going to react. So you use that lucid dream as a training. But we cannot confuse the lucid dream with the out-of-body experience. There may be cases in which you are in a lucid dream, perhaps even dreaming of flying, and towards this process or in the middle of it, you may increase your lucidity, your awareness, all of your mental capacities at that moment, and you turn that experience into an out-of-body experience because you could have been already floating outside your body or a little further from your body and producing that lucid dream, like creating those vivid images that are like dream-like images that you are producing there while you are outside the body, usually not very far from the body, but then you can transform that into an out-of-body experience. We have videos explaining this. We teach a lot about how to transform it and all of the details in the consciousness development program, but I will be happy to share some tips with you. But for now, this is also a technique that you can try to prepare yourself to fly outside the body if you have some sort of a psychological obstacle, like not remembering of it or feeling in doubt about it once you are out there projected. But I would suggest you start with the first technique that I mentioned, which is aiming to go higher, and then you go to the second, and then you go to the lucid dreaming. But each of us, we are different. So check for you, in your case, what's the best? If you are a good dreamer, that you can produce your dreams and you can distinguish it from an out-of-body experience, go for it. And you're going to see how quickly you will start getting more prepared and ready for great, huge flies outside the body. I really hope this information is useful to you and you can have wonderful astral flights. Please, if this was useful and interesting, give me a thumbs up, share with a friend, subscribe if you'd like to know about future videos. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.